Am I dreaming right now? I am seriously sitting outside in 66-degree weather in Michigan without a coat. And it's amazing. And I get to finish my Free to Choose book today. I only have about 56 pages left. I'm super motivated because I'm outside, and one of my favorite things to do outside is to read. So I've been cooped up inside all winter long, and finally I can break out and do what I want to do. So this is a good day. Very, very quiet. I have a reading buddy outside. This is what I love about reading outside. I get to be with the animals, and they come visit me sometimes. So cute. I seriously think that bugs are trying to reproduce right around me right now, and it's really distracting while I'm trying to read. I'm trying to read this analogy about inflation and alcoholism. So basically, as you're drinking more and more and more, and you're producing more and more money, that creates happy effects at first. But then you need to keep doing it more and more and more to get that same kick. But you can't. And the only solution is to stop yourself from drinking, stop yourself from making money. And that's when the painful effects come, the withdrawal effects. So that's a really powerful example right there. Well, I just officially finished Free to Choose just a few minutes ago. It's a really good feeling. I'm glad to be done. So I just finished 310 pages. So I'm just kind of flipping through my Free to Choose book to refresh my memory on everything that I just learned over these past few weeks. And one thing is for sure, Milton Friedman really liked Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations. So that's definitely a book that I hope to read in the future. I'm going to put it on my reading list because it seems to be quite an influential book. And I also learned about the Great Depression in here, the Federal Reserve, wages, inflation, welfare, education, environment. I learned a lot, just like all the other books. And the good thing is that in these books that I've read recently, like Liberty, Define, and Human Action, the same topics keep being discussed over and over again. And you know what that means? Repetition means that I learn better, because it keeps getting more and more ingrained in my head so that I can discuss these topics and understand them more. And that was the complete goal of this whole reading thing, was so that I could understand concepts better and talk about them with people. So, goal almost achieved once I read a ton more books. So I have one quote in the Free to Choose book that I've had marked because I've wanted to read it to all of you. It has to do with regulation and abortion. So two very triggering topics. So it has to do with the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the CPSC. And so this commission was mandated to protect the public from consumer products. So in August 1973, only 3 months after starting operation, the CPSC, banned certain brands of aerosol spray adhesives as an imminent hazard. Its decision was based primarily on the preliminary findings of one academic researcher who claimed that they could cause birth defects. After more thorough research failed to corroborate the initial report, the commission lifted the ban in March 1974. That prompt admission of error is most commendable and most unusual for a government agency, yet it did not prevent harm. It seems that at least 9 pregnant women who had used the spray adhesives reacted to the news of the Commission's initial decision by undergoing abortions. They decided not to carry through their pregnancies for fear of producing babies with birth defects. That's horrible! I would say the thing I enjoyed the most about Free to Choose was how Milton Friedman talked about all of these different topics as they applied to history. So he used a lot of historical examples, and so it really brought these topics to life because these are things that really happened. Before I even started reading Free to Choose, I already was a bit skeptical of Milton Friedman. When I first announced on Twitter that I was going to read Free to Choose, I started actually getting some comments that were warning me about Milton Friedman. So some people were like, I agree with a lot of Milton Friedman, but he's also wrong on a lot of ideas. Watch out for his opinions on central banking and vouchers. And then I came to realize that the reason why I might not agree with Milton Friedman on everything is because he's actually from the Chicago school, whereas people like Mises were from the Austrian school. And although these schools are very similar, they're also very different. I watched several YouTube videos and I was searching the internet for good articles and readings about Austrian and Chicago economics and what the differences are. And I came across 71 Republic. This article is titled "The Difference Between Austrian and Chicago Economics" by Jack Parkos. And this article is really concise and it's really informative. So I'm actually going to go through it with all of you because I think it's really helpful, at least in understanding the differences between these two schools. So both Chicago and Austrian schools are rooting in laissez-faire capitalism and believe in the power of the free market. The Chicago school is known to be more mainstream. The Chicago school is actually called the monetarist school sometimes. And I never knew this, but Milton Friedman served as an unofficial advisor to President Ronald Reagan. That's really interesting. And Chicago economists tend to use similar methods as most other economists. So these are the methods that you'd probably learn in an economics class in schools. So they believe that economics is like a science with rules that cannot be broken. Meanwhile, the Austrians believe that since the economy is based on the actions of individuals, no mathematical formulas can accurately predict how people would act. Austrians base their work on philosophy, logic, and reasoning. So that's where we get praxeology, which is what human action is about. Now this is the juicy part. This is the part where I was like, what? Okay, so this is on the Federal Reserve. So the Chicago school calls out the Federal Reserve's failures, but still believes it should exist and be used in the right way. Monetary policy is a big part of Chicago economics, hence sometimes being called the monetarist school, as I said before. For example, this is the juicy part. Milton Friedman criticized the Federal Reserve for not printing enough money during the Great Depression. That's true. When I read about the Great Depression part in my book here, I was kind of like, what? Did Milton Friedman just say that? And it just kind of left me with bad taste in my mouth. And Friedman also believed that the monetary supply should be increased by about 2.5% to 3.5% each year. Meanwhile, the Austrians do not believe the government should print more money ever. They tend to believe in a fixed supply, typically a standard based off of precious metals. The Austrians do not want the government inflating the currency at all. And some famous Austrian economists were Ludwig von Mises, Murray Rothbard, Frederick Bastiat. Now in the Chicago school, we have Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell, Gary Becker, and Friedrich Hayek. It says he also belonged to the Austrian school. So he was for both. Me personally, after reading Human Action and Free to Choose, I'm Team Mises, I'm Team Austrian. I'd say it's good to read things from all different viewpoints, so that's why next I'm reading The Road to Serfdom by Hayek, starting tomorrow. I'm pretty excited about this. So he's from the Chicago and Austrian schools, so he's the best of both worlds, kind of like a libertarian, right? So please like my video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. The fun is just getting started. Bye!